Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show. Today's guest is Megan Edgecumbe, founder of Your Fertility Advocate. We'll be talking about the hope, resilience, and behind the scenes realities of surrogacy in this episode titled Behind the Scenes of Surrogacy with Megan Edgecumbe. Megan knows this journey firsthand. After 10 years of infertility, 7 rounds of IVF, 2 failed surrogacies, and traveling to Mexico for ovarian stem cell PRP treatments, she miraculously conceived naturally at age 42 with an AMH of just 0.02. Now she helps intended parents and surrogates find each other with compassion and care. Megan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Amy. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I mean, I heard your story and I was like, wow, people need to hear this because it's quite an incredible story. I'd love for you to just start by sharing a bit about your personal fertility journey and what ultimately led you to found Your Fertility Advocate, which we also call YFA.
I love sharing my story because I really feel like it brings so much hope to people. So I started my journey when I was 33. I was recently married. I was very type A personality. My husband and I tried to get pregnant, and I thought I'm going to take those OPKs and try at the right time of the month. And nothing happened for months, month after month. And, I felt like already kind of nearing my mid 30s. This is worrisome. So about 6 months in, we went to our first RE. And I will never forget the way that felt. And that's why I call my company Your Fertility Advocate, because it really matters who you surround yourself with in your fertility journey. They can really help boost you and encourage you to keep going, or they can be very discouraging and disheartening. And my first experience was very disheartening. And I was told a very dismal diagnosis of diminished ovarian reserve, and I was almost in menopause. And, we got to rush to IVF and all the things. So I was already just full of fear. And so we did. We rushed to IVF and we did do it. And we got 2 embryos, put one in, it stuck. It was my son. And I thought, whew, that was stressful, but at least that's behind us. We figured it out. That's all I need. I need IVF. And that was just the tip of the iceberg for my story, because it was a decade of struggle that still was to come, a whole lot worse, including nearly dying twice. And, but I will fast forward. Basically, I did 7 more rounds of IVF, nothing took, and we had to work so hard for each embryo. I know a lot of your patients work so hard for their embryos. That was me too. And so we kept trying, and I would get 1 more embryo, and we tried about 4 more transfers in my body that they were just failed transfers. So then I moved on to surrogacy. And we found a proven surrogate, and we transferred an embryo in her, and it didn't take.
Aw.
But I got another embryo at like 41, and my dear surrogate had waited a year for me to keep trying transfers and retrievals to get more embryos. And we put that second embryo in her, and a failed transfer again. It was a chemical, and I was just devastated because so many years had gone by. IVF worked for me one time, and then I did what everyone thinks is the solution, which is get a surrogate, and that'll work, a proven surrogate, and it didn't work for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, because at that point I was already helping friends informally find their own surrogates. So I was already functioning as a surrogate advocate, and here I couldn't get the answer to my own fertility struggles or have my happy ending. But now that I'm through all of it, I'm at peace, because I'm very much with the belief that sometimes your path is very unexplained and takes twists and turns that you don't understand. And that was certainly true for me, because we were going to get donor eggs, and we were going to get a new surrogate, because I told my husband I did not want to be an 80-year-old woman and not felt like I was doing everything possible to grow my family. I felt like I had a son already, and I felt like there was a daughter. I get emotional when I talk about it still. And I just felt like I got to meet this little girl. I don't know how she's meant to come to me, but I'm not going to stop trying. So my husband was like, well, before we go to the donor egg route, let's just check your ovaries and make sure there's truly no way we can get any more eggs out of you. I was 42 and a half. And so I was like, okay, fine. And I shifted in my head that it's a donor eggs and it's a new surrogate and this is how it's going to be. And we were waiting for cycle day 1 to go in for that scan to look. And cycle day 1 never came. Not because I was in menopause, because that's what I
Right.
thought would happen, but I had gotten naturally pregnant
Wow.
and I carried to term my daughter,
Yeah.
all natural.
Yeah.
And so she's 2 now. I'm 45. And just what I learned through that decade, I will never forget. It was so many valuable lessons. And I just feel in my heart just so pulled. Obviously, I cry all the time.
Yeah.
I wear my heart on my sleeve, but this line of work is so good because it brings me so much joy to bring all this happiness to other families. And so that's why I do what I do. And I assembled my team at Your Fertility Advocate to help other people find their happy endings, however that may be.
Yeah. And what exactly is that? Are you helping people find surrogates? Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so Your Fertility Advocate is a surrogacy agency. We're a boutique and we're nationwide. And we help find a qualified, vetted surrogate and we match them with parents and help assist their whole journey from match till delivery. Our team just really considers ourselves advocates to help support the whole process.
So, what would you recommend to patients who may also be creating their own team? I mean, you created this team of, world experts like Dr. Vidali, Dr. Kwok Kim, and you also mentioned Roseanne. So, how did you find the people that you eventually partnered with?
I would say to anyone looking, you got to go by your instincts, what you feel. You need your staff, your team, your doctor, especially to make you feel heard and not dismiss you. Doctors are humans. Surrogacy agency owners are humans. We're all just trying to do our best and we all have to work together collaboratively. So if you don't feel like your questions are getting answered or that they're willing to kind of try new things if something's not working, if they only want to do the same thing over and over, that could be not a good sign. So I just kept searching and I was willing to get second and third opinions. I encourage that for who I work with. There is a lot of really intelligent doctors out there, caring doctors, doctors that are willing to try something a little outside the box. And I was thankful for those kind of doctors that helped me because my story did need some out of the box thinking. And yes, I did have natural conception, but I did need to be on a full immune therapy protocol, which is not widely accepted by a lot of doctors. And I mean, I was on steroids and IVIG and medications for both of my pregnancies, and my babies are perfectly healthy. And I know it's not the right path for everyone, but for me, I'm so grateful that path existed and there was doctors willing to try those things for me. So, I joined Facebook groups and I would, ask a million questions like, who's doing this? And, what do people think about this? So just constantly asking and being willing to try new things is, I think, kind of how I eventually found my way to success.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you did. And then along the lines of surrogacy, for listeners who are curious about it but don't know where to start, because that can be really overwhelming. How does the matching process between surrogates and intended parents work?
I would recommend, find a great agency that you feel hears you and cares about you deeply because not all of them are the same. And, have interviews with different ones to see where you feel a connection. And at our agency, we don't charge any money up front, but we will interview parents. And if they feel like a good fit and that we could match them at our agency, we will start showing them profiles of surrogates that we think could be a good fit for them. And it's really, I mean, I call myself a matchmaker because it is about kind of like dating. You want to find someone who's in alignment as much as possible. Like we meet everyone in our program and all the surrogates and take careful notes and video interviews so we can think, they might be a really good vibe together. Because, you don't have to see exactly eye to eye politically or about religion, but there's other things that, you could have in common that you feel like there could be a friendship there. This is like a good match. And so we really take that matching process to heart.
Yeah. And what are your recommendations for people in terms of how to best create a good bond and have a good partnership throughout the process?
Yes. So for the surrogates, what I tell them is, you are looking to be a surrogate because you've enjoyed your pregnancies. Most likely, all of them have been great experiences, or you would never sign up to be a surrogate if that wasn't the case, right? So you're going into this with rose colored glasses, and, this is like all upside for you. But you have to remember, we're matching you with someone who's had trauma. Unless you're a same sex couple, most likely, you've had trauma, and that's where you're at the point of needing the surrogacy journey. So you're bringing someone, two different perspectives together, which is beautiful. I don't want the surrogate to change her rose colored viewpoint. I want her to be very optimistic, but I want to caution her that, you know, when you go into that first ultrasound, the intended parents, they might be very nervous. Like there could be a knot in their stomach waiting for the results of that ultrasound because of what they've been through. So let's just be very, very graceful with each other. I know you might want to celebrate, but just, let them take the lead on the emotional aspect of it. And if they're not ready to celebrate yet, you respect that difference. And your goal is to help them on this journey to their baby. So, the women that sign up to be surrogates, it's very selfless. And, when we interview them, they usually always say there's someone in their life that struggled with infertility. So they firsthand know what that's like, and that their heart wants to help that person. And that's so important because when they're doing it in a selfless way, because they know the struggle and they want to bring that joy to someone else, like that is key, because then they will be respectful if in that first ultrasound there's not a sense of excitement yet, right? And
Right.
so they can just be tender-hearted and gentle and graceful with whoever they're matched with as they move through the process. And then for parents, I tell them, first of all, if they're a surrogate, they are usually helper personalities. They're nurses, school teachers, and it feeds their heart to know that they're helping you meet your baby. But the trust can be really hard, which I understand because I had to find a surrogate that I trusted that could carry my most precious being, that ever existed on this earth. And so it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to trust you. I'm not going to ask what's in your refrigerator. You just have to give the benefit of the doubt and understand, think about yourself. If you were to actually sign up to be a surrogate for someone else, how giving would you have to be to put yourself in that position? And so I just try to get them in that mindset and say, just give them the benefit of the doubt as much as possible and extend that trust, because often it's reciprocated and it's very beautiful. And so that's what the goal is. But of course, sometimes we make missteps. We're all human. And then we go back to that. Let's just be graceful.
Is there something that doctors could do better when it comes to surrogacy? What do you think that they should know more about?
Oh, when it comes to surrogacy, I mean, I just feel like find the doctor that you feel heard. I know, Dr. Amy, your patients have such a connection to you and they love you and such a sense of loyalty, which is beautiful. So you are really the one who should be answering, whatever you're doing, that's working. And that's what I love to see, because we're human, and sometimes sad things happen. Sometimes there's miscarriages, and so knowing that your doctor has your back and truly cares, that you're not just a number, that really matters.
What about intended parents or patients? What should they look for when they're looking for a doctor? What are the steps you took when you started your journey, especially the second one, because you were more experienced?
Mm-hmm.
And how did
Mm-hmm.
you partner with your physician to make sure that you were getting what you needed to have a really smooth surrogacy journey?
Yeah. Well, I know some clinics do a lot of surrogacy journeys and some don't. And we can, as a surrogacy agency, we can really tell the difference.
Yeah.
The staff is sometimes not well versed in the ins and outs of how a surrogacy journey goes and the delicate manner that things need to be handled. Even with, if it's a positive pregnancy test, who's the first person that you let know that? I think that even though it's the surrogate's body, I think the parents should be called first, and I think the doctor should call the parents and say, congratulations, or I'm so sorry to let you know this news. I'm surprised when I have, the surrogate finds out through her medical portal, and then somehow she feels the responsibility to tell the parents, whether it's good or bad. Like that's really not her role in this. I feel like it should come from the doctor to the parents. So sometimes I feel like it gets a little convoluted, like the order of things with clinics that are not used to handling surrogacy journeys often. We have a handful of great clinics that if parents ask us if they don't have a clinic already, like we can help recommend. Asking if you had a friend who had a great experience with their surrogacy journey and they really enjoyed working with that clinic and felt supported and it went smoothly, that's a great sign. That could be a great clinic to work with for your surrogacy journey.
When it comes to pregnancy tests, I think that is such an important point. I always talk to everyone at the transfer and I say, "How would you like the news?" And I tell them what I do. So
Mhm.
actually, I don't actually tell them this part because I like to surprise them.
Oh, no.
I always give the news no matter what.
I'm on.
And I just tell them I'm going to call the intended parents first, and then I'll let them know the news and I'll call the surrogate within seconds. So I actually call the surrogate and I let her know. And then I tell her, I want you to join me in sharing this news with the intended parents. So I put us all on a group call. And
Oh,
then I want the surrogate to actually hear the joy because that's like one of the most rewarding things in my job is just hearing them just for the first time, a lot of times it's telling them that, you know, they have a positive pregnancy test. So I think that's a really special moment. And I want the surrogate to realize how important she was to give us this great news, you
ah,
know.
that's
So
so beautiful. And it just shows how thoughtful you are about what this feels like for those people going through it, um, and how respectful that was to the surrogate to allow her that moment of feeling
yeah,
that joy.
yeah,
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, sadly, there's surrogates who will say that a doctor made them cry or made them feel minimized, and that breaks my heart. So your clinic does such a good job at, the exact opposite of that.
for someone who is listening, who, they're curious about surrogacy, they know it's the right step for them, but they're just not sure, what the next step is, or they're just overwhelmed. What message would you want to share with them?
Ah, overwhelming. It's all overwhelming. It's incredibly overwhelming. So just accept that you can feel overwhelmed. That's a normal response. And then just say, you know what, today I don't need to have all the answers, but today I'm just going to take the next step forward with what's in the next step. And even sometimes they feel paralyzed, like, well, what if I take the wrong step? Like, what if I meet with this doctor and it's the wrong doctor? Okay, it was the wrong doctor, but you had that consultation and you heard their perspective. And that was actually not the wrong direction because you learned from it,
Right.
because learning is still part of this path. And so accept the lesson that you had from maybe what felt like was the wrong path, but you don't know. Things play together in very strange ways. Like maybe going to that doctor helped you meet someone in the waiting room who told you about somebody else, like it twists and turns. So if you just don't beat yourself up and say, I'm on an uncomfortable journey, and I'm going to just learn the lessons that's for me here. And I'm going to stay hopeful and optimistic that there is a happy ending at the end of this. That was really the shift in mindset that helped me so much because I mean, I was on death's door multiple times and, really feeling disheartened where surrogacy wasn't working for me. And I had the thought that changed everything. That thought was, wow, I'm in like the less than 1% chance that bad things are going to happen to me. So, you know what? If that's true, maybe I have a statistical outlier and that the good things could also happen to me. And I thought, I started to like go on walks and put my music and headphones on and think, I'm just going to imagine like really wonderful outcomes. I'm just going to say, yeah, all the most unlikely things happen for me. And I started to live with that mindset and it shifted. And I feel like science has not caught up to whatever is psychologically going on in the female mind and the body connection, because I think there is something that does happen when you accept and you just decide to surrender the outcome and say, okay, I'm just going to go forward. I'm going to think that's best. And I'm going to not try so hard, to make a square peg fit in a round, hole. And something shifts psychologically in your body. And I see it because as a surrogacy agency owner, I see the women who get a surrogate and then get naturally pregnant. I mean, if they still have a uterus, I feel like it happens surprisingly a lot where they have like babies born the same year. They end up carrying. Like, how does that happen? Science hasn't figured out what it is yet, but there's something there.
I think your husband has a lot to do with it too. And and maybe his good sperm count. And the fact that you guys still love each other. I always tell people miracles happen when two people love each other. You just never know when you're going to see one. So for people who have listened to our conversation today and want to work with you as an agency, how do they do that?
Yes. So yourfertilityadvocate.com. We are a boutique agency. So we do about 50 to 60 matches. We work all across the United States, but we can't take on everyone, unfortunately, that comes our way just because I do want to keep it small. I am a mother with young kids and I have a small team. I don't want to be a big, huge corporation. So we help as many as we can. And we love to bring on good parents that are going to be respectful to their surrogate. And we are always looking for wonderful, qualified surrogates. So we'd love to hear from you. You can find me on Instagram, also at Your Fertility Advocate. And love to work with Amy on her matches. We have so much fun together and lots of beautiful babies born.
Yeah, I agree. Megan, is there anything else you want to share with us today before we sign off?
I do. I have one little thing, and I'm not sure you come across this much, but I think one of the reasons my husband didn't actually have great sperm count, even though you thought that might have been why we got pregnant.
Well, you
But
had a
I had
sharpshooter there at 42, so
But you had a guest that I was so fascinated by. She was a holistic dentist, and she talked about infections and how the biome in the mouth really can affect fertility. So I try to talk whenever I can about the fact that I had a root canal done before any of my pregnancies, and it was infected. I had an abscess in my jaw for all of these years.
wow.
Yes. And so what the doctors think now is that the reason I had to be on these strong immune medications was to bring down my immune response. And that's how I was able to sustain a pregnancy. I've since had that root canal removed and the abscess is gone. But I think my body was constantly built like fighting an infection, and the body is smart. It knows if it's not the ideal environment to grow a pregnancy.
Hmm.
So I always tell women, if you are having unexplained infertility, there could be some sort of hidden infection, even in your uterus sometimes, or in your mouth and your teeth. So I try to spread that message everywhere. It might not be your case, but it's worth looking into.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, Megan, thank you so much for sharing both your personal story and your professional insights. Your resilience and the work you're doing through Your Fertility Advocate are a true inspiration. For those of you listening, you can learn more about Megan and find links to everything we discussed today at my website, dramy.org. And if you have your own fertility questions, I'd love to hear from you at asktheeggwhisperer.com. Don't forget to subscribe to The Egg Whisperer Show so you never miss an episode. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you soon.